Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star original continent based on novel. So let's start. Haha. We survived. We have made it into the East Army. That was one scary fellow with his blade. Luckily, he was engaged in a fight with Woohee from Northern True Ocean. If not, we would have been in deep trouble. The warriors and beasts who had managed to survive were all highly excitable, with only a handful mourning the deaths of their fellow companions who had been annihilated. Since youth, they had witnessed the annihilation of scores of companions, so this was nothing new. There was a legend that the whole world of Jin knew. Annihilation was the manifestation of reincarnation. The living souls of the world of Jin knew this by heart, so they would silently send their partners off with blessings and not be overly upset. After all, anyone on the path of great beings was destined for a high probability of annihilation. Just to enter the army, 2/3 would have lost their lives. What might happen thereafter was not a difficult guess. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Let's go quickly. In the desolated desert space, a huge, arched door appeared out of nowhere. From it, 3 true gods, all shouting at the top of their voices, walked out. The surviving warriors and beasts walked over obediently and immediately. After all, they were about to undergo the next round of selection. "The two of you," said one of the true god warriors. He was clothed in dark red armor with a large tail, and gazed at Luo Feng and his unusual beast companion with the single, red eye on his head. "Follow me. I will bring both of you to Python River Army." "All right," Luo Feng replied. The unusual beast, which was badly battered, also replied, "All right." The two followed this true god, who was the first to head outside via the arched door. "Milky Way, good luck." Northern Wind shouted. Luo Feng also turned his head to shout, "Good luck." Just like that, the two parted ways. Within the army, it was not up to their will to do as they pleased. Northern Wind's ability was still far from the expectations of Python River Army. He might have been considered an elite, but he was not considered to be a true genius, so he would not be accepted into the army at the beginning. If he could demonstrate outstanding performance in the period that followed, there was a chance he could still be accepted into the special troop. The only problem was that by then, it might no longer be the Python River Army, but some other special army troop. Luo Feng and the beast followed behind the single-eyed, true god to fly within the vast army camp. They flew at the speed of light. All of space is completely sealed. Luo Feng muttered under his breath. Seems like within the army camp, it is impossible to teleport. "I am Woohee from the Northern True Ocean," a voice resounded. "My father is the master of Northern True Ocean." Luo Feng turned around and grinned. "I am Milky Way. Everywhere can be home to me." "Oh." This beast, Woohee, nodded his hideous head to show that he understood. In the world of Jin, wars between tribes and wars between beasts were common and all too frequent. Some of the tribespeople lost their homes as a result and were forced to become refugees roaming about. Of course, there were some who were willing to roam about to hone their skills and abilities. "You are very impressive," Woohee complimented. Luo Feng smiled and returned the compliment. "You are not too bad yourself. There are many special troops within the East Army. Python River Army is just one of the many," Woohee explained. "During the initial screening we had to go through when we first joined the army, that is when they identify the extraordinary talents. It is extremely rare to be chosen for this special troop. In particular, the others will be further deployed to other troops, which is why, within a short period of time, the new recruits for Python River Army will only be the 2 of us. For those of us who have just joined the army, the veterans will look down on us. We have to join forces." "Join forces?" Luo Feng was shocked. "The life of a soldier is a life of battle," Woohee said. These experienced warriors were accepted into the special troops because they were outstanding to begin with. They had their inheritance of the army and long-term cultivation. With these factors combined, along with the rich experience they gained from life and death situations that allowed them to hone their skills whenever they go out to fight battles, indeed, they will be very impressive. Luo Feng nodded to show that he understood. Impressive. What a joke. The warriors of Python River army might have been really impressive, but compared to one who owned the inheritance of Duandong River, they were still a notch lower, unless they had automaton-type treasures that could allow them to bypass levels and unleash stronger powers. The army camp of the East Army was so massive that it was said to be endlessly vast. Luo Feng and Wu He followed that single-eyed true god, flying if he flew and traveling via wormhole transportation if he did so. It took around half a day's time to finally arrive, before an incomparably towering hall. Inside, there were many people and beasts all over the place. The two of you, wait here, the single-eyed true god ordered. Luo Feng and Wu He obediently waited outside the towering hall while the single-eyed true god entered alone. What is this place? Luo Feng asked Wu He, who was right beside him. This is one of the military points. Wu He swayed his head, and the two wings on his neck were set to a fanning motion. The military supplies for our Python River army should be found here. Look, there are many warriors going in. They must be here to change their military arms. Change their military arms. Luo Feng was taken aback. Yes. Wu He nodded his huge head as he said in a low voice, all warriors relied on the various battles they fought to hone and train their skills. Time and again, training and honing of skills via life-and-death situations have seen to the annihilation of many warriors. For ordinary warriors, their chances of annihilation will be pretty high. But for us, warriors of the Python River army, if we were subjected to situations involving the same level of danger, I'm afraid, not many will be annihilated. What we have to go through will definitely be more dangerous compared to them. Similarly, the spoils of our victory can be used to change for military credits, which can, in turn, be used to exchange for armaments. The more military credits, the more outstanding one is and the more benefits can be exchanged. You can even exchange for a group of true gods to form your personal team of bodyguards. This is also possible. Of course, the amount of military credits required is a fearsome sum. Luo Feng laughed. A personal team of bodyguards. What a pity that the natives would die the moment they stepped out of the world of Jin. There are also automaton-type treasures here. Luo Feng asked. Of course there are. Wu He's cold eyes flashed with a glimmer of excitement as he said, there are many powerful automaton-type treasures, but the amount of military credits required is outrageously high. The more magical these automaton-type treasures are, the more precious they are. Back then, my father also managed to seize a powerful automaton-type treasure. Even after he had retired from the fighting scene, he was still a dominating figure throughout the Northern True Ocean. However, to seize powerful automaton-type treasures, even a true god will need an extremely long time to accumulate military credits. For us, mere lawmasters, the rate at which we accumulate military credits will be even slower. If we want to obtain those powerful automaton-type treasures, it will be very difficult. Even if we manage to, it will take a long, long time. Luo Feng took everything to heart. It would take that long. The world of Jin was an incomparably ancient world to begin with. A single reincarnation era might be regarded as a normal length of time in the world of Jin. After all, there were many true gods here, with quite a handful of true gods of void space. If even Wu He believed that this was a very, very long time, it seemed an extremely long period would be required. And coming from Universe Ocean, time was what Luo Feng lacked. It has arrived. Wu He looked off into the distance. Luo Feng also looked over. They could see that from the military points of the Great Hall, the single-eyed true god was walking out. With a single wave, he sent two streams of rays descending to land before Luo Feng and Wu He. The two of you might only be lawmasters, said the single-eyed true god, but you are now entering the Python River army. So you can get this true god level armor. A set of true god level Python River armor is actually just Python River armor. He gave Luo Feng and the beast, Wu He, a quick look. It can allow you to stay alive for a longer period in the midst of a life-and-death battle, especially as new recruits. You will need to ensure that you can endure and live on. All right. Now, follow me to Python River Army. Luo Feng held the armor, feeling its oppressive force. True God level armor. In Universe Ocean, it would be supreme true treasure armor. Yet in the world of Jinn, it was only the standard armor of a true god. Any warrior, who was an ordinary law master, would not be qualified to own this armor. For a special troop, however, things had to be a little more special. Seems like, Luo Feng said quietly to himself, battle armor is also divided into different levels, like True God level, True God of Void Space level. So obviously, supreme true treasures will also be different in strength, strong or weak. This must be an ordinary supreme true treasure. I suppose Black Prison Tower and Yang Jun Rod would both be regarded as ordinary supreme true treasures. Shawu Wings and Star Tower are obviously a little more special. The single-eyed, true god looked behind him and swept through the surroundings. Quick! Get the armor to recognize you as their masters and put them on. All warriors of Python River Army must wear that. Understood, Luo Feng replied. This is not even as good as mine, Wu He said, transmitting the message only to Luo Feng. Luo Feng laughed to himself. When he had first come in, he did not even bring Shawu Wings or Star Tower, which meant he did have an urgent need for this Python River armor. Getting it to recognize its master is easy. Luo Feng speedily succeeded in getting the treasure to recognize him as its master. It was not very difficult, probably on the same level as Yang Jun Rod. He quickly stored Crazy Demon Extermination, Godly Armor, while the Python River armor was rapidly appearing on his body. Soon, the dark red armor had fully appeared over his entire body. On the helmet was a skull modeled into the form of a strange python. There were also circular black lines all over the dark red armor. Beside him, Wu He, the beast, had rapidly transformed into a dark red beast. On the surface of its body were similar black lines. This time, Luo Feng and the others spent a full 3 days within the army camp, and finally arrived before a vast lake. There were numerous islands on the vast lake, as many as trillions of them, and the diameter of the entire lake was so vast that it had to be measured in light years. At first glance, dark red figures could be spotted. One look at them, you know they are warriors of Python River Army, Luo Feng said to himself. All of them wore dark red armor, and on their helmets were the same strange python shapes. These are your new recruits for your Python River Army, the single-eyed true god shouted. His powerful voice spread out to transmit the message to every corner of this vast lake. Divide your large team into 6 smaller groups and assign them somewhere. When he finished shouting his message, he shot a quick look at Luo Feng and Wu He. Hopefully, I will still see you guys the next time around. He transformed into a streak of flowing light and departed speedily. Shortly after, numerous figures could be seen flashing in the distance. They appeared to be teleporting. Teleportation was impossible in the main surroundings of the external region, but in a certain area within that lake, it was possible to teleport. More than 20 figures were teleporting over very quickly, and soon, they were suspended in space beside Luo Feng and Wu He. Some were humanoid life forms while others took the form of beasts. They were all scrutinizing Luo Feng and Wu He. Wu He lifted his chin proudly as he shouted, "My father is the master of Northern True Ocean." Of the 20-plus figures suspended in the space above, a tall and burly man immediately replied, "In the army, your father cannot help you no matter how impressive he is. The 2 of you, report your names and tell us what you are good at." "I am Wu He." Wu He roared. "I am skilled in. I am good in. Well, my godly body is big enough. My godly body is more than 1 million kilometers in length." "Yes, you do have quite a big godly body," said the big, burly man. He looked at Luo Feng. "What about you?" "I am Milky Way," Luo Feng replied. "I am more powerful than Wu He in terms of ability, and I am more skilled in close combat evasion." Beneath a gigantic pair of curved horns, the burly man's grey eyes gazed at Luo Feng and Wu He. "Both of you are gifted with talents that can be considered at the ordinary standard of my Python River Army. However, in half a month's time, 6 of our troops will be going out. It is just your luck. The 2 of you have to make full use of your time and train to the best of your abilities, so you can to brush up your skills. The moment you join us, You are met with a mission ranked at a catastrophe level. How unlucky can you be? Catastrophe level. Wu He was shocked. Luo Feng looked at the group of soldiers in front of him. The giant man in the lead said coldly, I am the captain of the 6th squad of the first team, and all the rules and knowledge of the army are in here. Learn everything yourself, and if there are no special occasions, don't disturb other teammates. Then 2 crystal balls showed up. Each crystal was the size of a finger. Luo Feng and Wu He took them. Go back to training. Prepare, the captain yelled. Yes, some soldiers answered, yet some other soldiers didn't respond. Apparently, the captain didn't have enough authority. I need to remind you that the catastrophe level task is coming, said a clear voice. It was a female with green skin and green wings. QFA, do you really think those 2 newbies can survive the catastrophe level task? Humph. They haven't received the basic inheritance, and they don't have enough time to train themselves. How are they going to pass the catastrophe level task? The other soldiers all shook their heads, teleported, and left. They didn't want to talk with Luo Feng and Wu He. The captain took a look at Luo Feng and Wu He and said, prepare yourselves. He left as well. Only Luo Feng and Wu He stayed. It seems that we're unlucky, Luo Feng whispered. Wu He, what does catastrophe level tasks mean? Wu He bellowed, we're very unlucky. The army will go out and do the task prepared every era, and will be ordered to make attacks at a specific place. For every 10,000 eras, there will come a task that is very dangerous, and it's at catastrophe level. For every 100 million eras, there will be a task more horrifying, at incarnation level. Incarnation level. Luo Feng was dazed. That means if you're faced with that task, you're going for incarnations. Wu He glanced at Luo Feng. Luo Feng smiled. Those in the world of Jin treated incarnations as death, which meant the incarnation level task was indeed full of dangers. If we were in the ordinary army, then even the incarnation level would fine for us, Wu He said nervously. However, this is Python River Army. The ordinary tasks in Python River Army equal those of the incarnation level of the ordinary army. As for catastrophe level, that means a real catastrophe for talents like us. The incarnation level is a nightmare. Half of experienced soldiers will die during the incarnation level tasks. By comparison, the survival rate in the ordinary army is much higher. Those who have been training for a long time in the ordinary army can become supreme beings among law universes. Those supreme beings can survive the incarnation level tasks. The more powerful someone is, the most difficult the tasks will be. At the law universe level, no matter how powerful we are, there's a limit. However, the military task is very difficult, and many die. Luo Feng felt intimidated. Only a few out of 100 who joined the ordinary army could live long enough to retire. According to Wu He, special armies like Python River Army had an even lower survival rate. His Majesty the Godly King, from the world of Jin, had designed a mad screening process. It's much more dangerous. Wu He's eyes glinted madly. But it's much easier for us to get a precious inheritance and powerful valuables. Those supreme beings in the world of Jin, like true gods of void space, were all selected from the special armies. As for ordinary armies, they'll stay mediocre for their entire lives. My father is the master of Northern True Ocean. I need to become as powerful as my father, if not stronger. Luo Feng took a look at Wu He and smiled. Let's go. We need to choose an island to live on first. Complicated information was contained in the crystal balls, but there wasn't much of it. It simply introduced the military rules and regulations to Luo Feng and Wu He, who immediately grasped them using their godly power. They also knew that this lake belonged to Python River Army. There were 3 teams in Python River Army, and each team occupied an area of this lake. There were 9 squads in the first team, and each squad had its own area. They could choose any island without an owner for them to practice on. They teleported and became streaks of red light flying across the sky above an island. Soldiers in the special army have different treatments, as they can occupy an island while other great beings are banned from entering it. Luo Feng looked down and felt satisfied. As for Wu He chose a more distant island. Luo Feng quickly landed. The island had a diameter of more than 100,000 kilometers. It was only a small island. At the center was a simple, stone-made residence. If he wasn't satisfied with it, he could certainly rebuild it. Luo Feng didn't care about that, as he only needed a place to rest. Freeze. Luo Feng's godly power spread, and he went to the deep area of the island. He touched a prismatic crystal stone and infused his godly power. The crystal stone's color changed. From now on, the island had an owner. On the roof of the stone-made house, Luo Feng lay in a stone chair. The stone chair was huge, and Luo Feng's godly body changed to 100 kilometers tall. He lay on the stone chair as if it were a bed. He looked into the distance and could see endless lakes and islands. I've entered World of Jin and Python River Army, the Special Army of the East Army. 1 year later, there will be a task. Luo Feng was thinking about his path. Supreme True Treasures. Machine-type valuables. They both required military credits. I really need blood and scale armors of true gods, Luo Feng thought. I need to get as many bodies of true gods as possible, and take them back to the original universe. In the past 8 million eras, Luo Feng had devoted most of his energy to studying the composition of life forms. Humans were of flesh and blood type, so he would still be a life of flesh and blood type after he became a true god and all his bodies were combined as one. As a result, Luo Feng best understood flesh and blood type life forms. He could change the new remote ocean body into a flesh and blood life form using the structure of life genes, and he could make its life gene level reach 10,081 times. However, Mosha body was an energy-type life form, and Luo Feng hadn't spent much time on them. Although he had an elementary understanding, its life gene level was only at 5,000 times. I've improved too slowly. I haven't even surpassed 10,081 times yet, let alone 90,000 times. Luo Feng felt nervous. Based on his understanding, the higher a gene level was, the more difficult it was to get a higher gene level. His original life gene level was 10,081 times, so it would only take him a little time to analyze this level. He had succeeded in fully analyzing this level, and he had reorganized remote ocean body with a life gene level of 1,000 times. It was like turning wood into a diamond. He had changed the internal composition of remote ocean body, making it a powerful godly body at the perfect life gene level. However, surpassing 10,081 times and reaching 15,000 times or higher was much more difficult. There were several levels. Level 1 was to surpass the perfect life gene level. Level 2 was to reach a life gene level of 30,000 times. Level 3 was to reach 60,000 times. Level 4 was to reach 90,000 times. In terms of gene structure, true gods were far more advanced than universe masters, and they could provide more insights in terms of a breakthrough for Luo Feng. However, Luo Feng only had the body of Great Thunder Star Master and the hair and blood of Sitting Mountain Guest and Primal Chaos City Leader. That was far from adequate, he needed much more. Luo Feng knew exactly the steps he needed to follow. First, he needed to analyze billions of life forms and billions of material structures. Second, he needed to create life forms. Life forms that could procreate were the most difficult to create. The life forms 9 Remoteness Master created were born in the ocean. They were all energy life forms, so they couldn't procreate. Those were the easiest ones to create. If Luo Feng wanted to create life forms that could procreate, he needed to study the origin of life forms, which was far more complicated. Of course, it would help to analyze many life forms. Luo Feng estimated that his godly body could at least evolve to a life gene level of 50,000 times. Only after reaching that level could he create life forms that could procreate, which could, in turn, help him move higher on the godly power path. Bodies of true gods and military credits. Luo Feng thought. I'll go check the basic inheritance now. Luo Feng, who had been lying on the stone chair, flew away like a streak of light. There was a basic inheritance of Python River army at the center of the island. Luo Feng immediately landed. There were pillars all around the island, and each pillar had a crystal ball. Wu He was shaking his head in the distance, and his body was winding around a pillar. Milky Way. Wu He let go of the stone pillar. His claws clenched the ground, and the wings on his neck fluttered. He flew toward Luo Feng like a streak of light. What took you so long? The catastrophe level task is coming. We need to spend as much time as possible to study the basic inheritance. Although it's a basic inheritance, it's still a lot. That's something even my father couldn't teach me, and it is precious. Those from the army need to exchange the inheritance for military credits. We're in the special army, which is why we can get a free basic inheritance instantly after we enter. However, the more complicated the inheritance was, the more military credits were required to get it. Be quick. I'll continue with my comprehension. Wu He stopped speaking. Apparently, he wanted to fully utilize the time. Luo Feng nodded. There were around 100 crystal balls on the island. He immediately spread his godly power and penetrated it into each crystal ball. Information flooded his mind. True treasure making, machine making, close combat, illusions, combinations, and burning godly power techniques. Luo Feng was greatly surprised. He had expected the basic inheritance to be mediocre, but it was, in fact, very useful. Those combat techniques, combination techniques, and burning godly power techniques could all improve his fighting power. As for the training, it only covered how to become a true god. Burning godly power techniques only had one level, like the first volume of Du and Mie. Based on the instruction, law masters could only learn the first level while true gods could learn the second level. The inheritance after that required military credits to be obtained. Luo Feng memorized all of Python River Army's fundamental inheritance, and was shocked when he learned more about it. This fundamental inheritance might have been a notch less superior compared to the inheritance of the Pulse of Duandong River, but compared to what he had gotten from the Memory Stone, with that tremendous amount of memory, and based on his understanding of ancient civilization, this was absolutely top-notch inheritance. A powerful inheritance was not easily imparted in the world of the ancient civilization. The inheritance of an army, especially the inheritance of Python River Army, was enough to be regarded as a superior inheritance. Of course, this was only a small portion of the most fundamental part of this superior inheritance. Anything beyond this would need to be exchanged with more military credits. The inheritance of the Pulse of Duandong River was regarded as a super inheritance, and Luo Feng had the entire set. After I have mastered this set of secret techniques on blazing my godly power, I will be able to execute the first stage of extermination, Luo Feng thought. World of Jin is very stringent in its management of the inheritance. If I were to execute extermination by blazing my godly power, but be unable to tell where I learned this secret technique on blazing godly power, I will be sentenced to death. Just as Luo Feng was putting on a show of learning the fundamental inheritance. In the human territory of the primal universe, in Milky Way Holy Land, Luo Feng's new remote ocean body sat cross-legged in a towering hall on the 9th story. There was nothing in the surroundings, only the vast space could be seen. He opened his eyes and stood up right away. He turned his head to look into the distance. A streak of light flew by. It was the Ancestral God School's double-face Ancestral God. Milky Way Horde Leader. Double-face Ancestral God stepped onto the black jaded floor of the hall on the 9th story, and smiled as he looked at Luo Feng. Luo Feng was surprised as he returned the smile. Ancestral God, why have you come calling on me? You and I are good friends. Even if there is nothing going on, can't I just come calling on you? Double-face Ancestral God teased. Luo Feng smiled in return. Of course you can. If you are willing to, you may stay for as long as you please. This double-face Ancestral God had saved him once. Out of the 3 great Ancestral Gods, Luo Feng was indeed most fond of double-face Ancestral God. Double-face Ancestral God said right away, of course I do have a purpose in coming here. Milky Way Horde Leader from the world of Jin, you have gained a lot. Otherwise, You would not have alarmed the willpower of the primal universe origin. My purpose in coming here this time around is to represent the willpower of the primal universe origin. Oh? Luo Feng was shocked. Represent the willpower of the origin. Who had said he had gained a lot? It seemed like the primal universe origin knew a lot about him, which made sense though, as he did not feel constrained when he was in the world of Jinn. He had also tried comprehending the memory stones found in the space of inheritance of the boat of Mausoleum, but he realized he was still unable to view the more profound content. That was when Luo Feng realized that the willpower of the primal universe origin still wielded influence over him. World of Jinn existed within the universe ocean, and under the guidance of the willpower of the primal universe origin, it would be strange if there was no control at all. I have gained a lot. Luo Feng laughed. How so? Milky Way Horde leader should know, Doubleface Ancestral God said indifferently. I may not be that clear about it, but according to the willpower of the primal universe origin, out of all the great beings from the first batch to enter the universe ocean, you are one of those with the greatest amount gained. Luo Feng squinted. The greatest amount gained. Now that he had been accepted into Python River Army, he had gained a set of Python River armor. Python River armor was a true god-level armor, and was regarded as a supreme true treasure. However, Luo Feng had discovered that when his Shawu wings were extended into a suit of armor, the armor was still much stronger than the Python River armor. By donning the armor that was an extension of Shawu wings, any attacks that were weaker than 8th tier combat power would not be able to harm the godly body under its protection. But Python River armor was only capable of keeping the godly body safe from any attacks that were below the 7th tier. As for the magnitude of the weakening effect, both were on par. However, the limit of endurance of Python River armor was far from the limit of endurance of the armor that was an extension of Shawu wings. If he'd had no means of comparison, he would not have known. But upon comparison, Luo Feng was all the more aware of how impressive Shawu wings were. Other than gaining the Python River armor, the most important gain he had made was his identity as a Python River Army warrior. A warrior of a special troop, whether it was military credits, or the inheritance that could be exchanged, was greatly superior. The number of great beings of groups of top powers from the universe ocean, who had entered Python River for the first time, was not that many, around 200 or more. Yet, right from the start, quite a few were already being annihilated. There were some who had managed to sneak their way into the army, but to further worm their way into a troop as special as the Python River Army. Other than Luo Feng, there was no one. Instantly, various thoughts started to surface in Luo Feng's mind. He looked at Doubleface Ancestral God, who was right before him. Ancestral God, your purpose here. What is your true intention? I have come under the orders of the willpower of the primal universe origin to guide you. Doubleface Ancestral God looked at Luo Feng. His entire being radiated oppressive force. Though not overwhelmingly strong, it was obviously still a very powerful force that far surpassed a true god of void space, to the extent of transcendence. Obviously, this was something the universe origin of the primal universe had bestowed upon him. For a normal reincarnation era, there will not be a fourth most dangerous land appearing, he articulated slowly. And this era now is obviously not normal, which is why a fourth most dangerous land has appeared. This is a great opportunity, but also a great disaster. His voice was like a heavy hammer that pounded against Luo Feng's heart. A great disaster. Luo Feng frowned. The appearance of that humanoid life form. The willpower of the primal universe origin had provided them with guidance and told them the way to enter the world of Jinn. Going such great lengths to help them, it must have had a purpose for doing so. After all, the willpower of the origin was normally so detached. By right, there should be no reason for it to interfere as such. Obviously, it must have had a purpose. It, who had once suppressed teacher origin. It, who had once killed Yuan Ao Master and banished a strange object. It, who had wanted to annihilate 3 great beings such as Great Thunder Star Master. All of these factors went to show that the willpower of the primal universe origin had a standpoint of its own. Out with it. Luo Feng looked at Doubleface Ancestral God. What is it that you want me to do? You are going to be the #1 master of the entire universe ocean. Doubleface Ancestral God slowly made his point. This is something you cannot deny. Your power is going to be much stronger than Teacher Origin in the future. All the disasters. You need to deal with them. And how should you deal with them, is that you need to rely on the world of Jinn. Remember. Doubleface Ancestral God looked at Luo Feng. Adhering to the rules within the world of Jinn, try your best to gain benefits that can allow you to empower yourself. Your strength and power will be the hope of the willpower of the primal universe origin. As a child of the primal universe, whatever does harm to the primal universe will also be harmful to you. Remember, everything is in the world of Jinn. You have to get stronger. Doubleface Ancestral God smiled after he finished saying his piece, then transformed into flowing light and left. Luo Feng stood in silence at the same spot, gazing into the distance in the direction Doubleface Ancestral God was going. The willpower of the origin truly values me, Luo Feng mumbled to himself in a hushed tone. Everything that had happened earlier on had allowed Luo Feng to understand this. The willpower of the origin was unable to make any moves on its own, so in everything that it needed to accomplish, it would have to borrow the hands of other great beings. Apparently, the willpower of the origin had set its eyes on Luo Feng and felt that he would be the one true strongest being in the future. This was the reason it had been providing him with help and guidance all this while. It had the intention of getting Luo Feng to become a keen tool of the willpower of the origin, someone who could damage and destroy all enemies. I am the child of the primal universe. Anything that harms it will also harm me. Luo Feng was asking himself this question repeatedly in his heart. This was obviously telling Luo Feng that the willpower of the primal universe origin stood on the same side as him. Whatever you say, I should just believe. The world of Jinn appearing. Before Great Thunderstar Master was annihilated, the power he executed was something entirely different from his godly power. The proactive guidance by the willpower of the primal universe origin. Everything has to have a purpose. The willpower of the origin cannot directly attack on its own. So long as my power is strong enough, and I can become the #1 master of the entire universe ocean, by then, I will truly dominate the right to speak. Let's see. Let's wait and see what is going to happen. Before whatever is in store for me, I need to brush up on my ability. Luo Feng felt no resentment. The willpower of the primal universe origin had wanted him to understand this crisis, so he would feel the sense of urgency in elevating himself. He would do just that. After all, there was nothing wrong in making oneself more powerful. Virtual Universe, the peak of Thunder Island. Luo Feng and Primal Chaos City leader met up. Teacher, this is the secret technique on blazing godly power of Python River Army. Luo Feng had stored records of the inheritance of Python River Army in the virtual universe, and sent them over to Primal Chaos City leader as a message. Secret technique on blazing godly power. Primal Chaos City leader looked through thoroughly. Yes, even for the ancient civilization, this secret technique on blazing godly power can only be created by an extremely strong existence, Luo Feng explained solemnly. But teacher, you have to bear in mind that the moment you enter the world of Jinn, such special methods like techniques on blazing of godly power must not be executed. Otherwise, you will be investigated by the army in the most stringent manner, and if you are unable to tell them where you acquired such a technique, you will be sentenced to death. Internally, the world of Jinn is extremely strict with how it handles its inheritance. Primal Chaos City leader nodded. You can rest assured. Also, just a while ago, the willpower of the origin sent me a message through Ancestral God, Luo Feng said slowly. He mentioned some kind of great disaster, and he wanted me to do my best to increase my power when I'm in the world of Jinn. Humph. Primal Chaos City leader gave a hostile snort and said, I have spoken with Teacher Origin. You need not be bothered about any great disaster. It is only intimidating you. Even if there was a great disaster, it might not be a disaster directed at us. Like East Emperor Holy Land, it survived through countless reincarnation eras, and is it not still going strong? According to Teacher Origin, the willpower of the primal universe origin is not invincible, so you need not be overly concerned. But of course, increasing your power. There is nothing wrong with that. Luo Feng nodded. Yes. The willpower of the origin had decided to use him as its weapon, but that also depended on whether or not he was willing to be used. But you have to make sure you grasp the right opportunity. Based on the information I received, there are more and more great beings being annihilated in the world of Jin, Primal Chaos City leader said in a solemn tone. It was said that Divine Eye clan had sent in its army, but the moment its army entered, it was killed in the military camp. Only a handful survived. Regardless, groups of top powers of Universe Ocean would have to wait another century before they could enter. Now, you have an advantage over them, so you must try your best to grab the right opportunity. Luo Feng nodded with a smile. The pitiful Divine Eye clan, killed in the military camp. The ordinary army was more scattered and dispersed. While the special army was prohibited from mutual killing in the camp, the ordinary army was looser on such discipline. Only by standing out from the crowd to be accepted into the special army would one be able to truly receive specialized cultivation. World of Jin, East Army, military camp of the Law Masters of the Python River Army, the island of the fundamental inheritance. No matter how anxious the various groups of top powers of Universe Ocean were, Luo Feng had come to the world of Jin in peace. Milky Way, tomorrow is the day we must receive our military mission, Wu He said, flying over from afar. This is a disaster-level mission. Have you gained anything from cultivating on the fundamental inheritance? I have mastered the secret technique on blazing godly power, Luo Feng said casually. Wu His eyes widened instantly. The wings attached to his neck also stopped their fanning motion. This? It has only been how long since you started? Wu He was shocked. Then he senselessly said, when you have yet to receive that technique of blazing godly power, you are already able to defeat me. That blade technique of yours is especially terrifying. The power of your blade could be so well condensed that it could penetrate my armor without causing any external damage, and yet cause my godly body to be greatly consumed. And your close combat dodging allows you to transform so quickly that I have no time to resist. Being your target, and enduring so many blows from you, an entire half of my godly body was used up. Luo Feng merely grinned in response. Back then, they had battled for half an hour. 3,000 had turned up for the selection, but not more than 1,000 had survived to the end. It was hard to imagine how long it took Luo Feng to kill, and how fast his blade was. The number of blows hacking onto Wu His body was unknown, but it had destroyed 50% of his godly body. Let's go have a good rest, Wu He said. We are heading out tomorrow, and I really hope we can make it back alive.